Welcome to another edition of the Paranormal Zone. I'm your co-host, Tom Spitalere. Bob is out on assignment tonight, and Melissa's out on assignment too. We've got a lot going on here in the Paranormal Zone as we head towards the holidays and beyond. So the Paranormal Zone has been set up so we can discuss and be open-minded about what's going on and what goes bump into the night, including paranormal, UFO, UAPs, etc., etc., etc. And whatever goes bump into the night. And there's a lot of things goes bump into the night. We are broadcasting high above Jesse's breakfast and luncheonette here at 60 Island Street in historic Lawrence, Massachusetts, at the Lawrence Community Access Community TV Studios and the James R. Ross Memorial Studios. It was a very successful year this year for a lot of things, including the radio show. The podcast is picking up. People are listening. They're listening all across the world and the great beyond. We're still out there looking around to see what goes bump into the night. We're out every night of the week looking around, so things have been hectic. Tonight's episode, though, we've talked about UFOs. We've talked about this, that, and the other thing as we come closer and closer to December 19th, when that comet's supposed to, that A13 is supposed to enter into our sight. So, but tonight, we're going to talk about something a little different. We're going to talk about monsters. We're not going to talk about the ones that may attack you in the woods. We're not going to talk about those at all. We're going to talk about lake and sea monsters. Lake and sea monsters have been around since the beginning of time. Native Americans, Old Norse records showed them. And even in some of the older areas of the world have talked to England, which is a lot older than we are here in New England, talked about monsters. We've heard about them all our lives. Growing up here in New England, we've heard about them. So we're going to talk about some of the less known ones, and we're going to work our way to some of the well-known ones and try to figure out what these are and what they really are. Are they big sea monsters? Are they cryptid that live in water? Animals that existed at one time that we thought went extinct, but never really went extinct. So what are they? What are we going to find out? So I guess the first one I want to talk about is Glen Lake. Glenny at Glen Lake at Craig Falls Dam in Goffstown, New Hampshire. Legend has it a large serpent swimming in the Piscataqui River dates back to Native American times, so pre-1600s. The Abenakis referred to this creature as Gatsky, Gtaskey, or pronounced Gtaski. All right, mewing great sea serpent on a big. Someone had seen this great-looking serpent on this lake in 1918 at Greg's Falls Dam, and when the dam was constructed for a Manchester factory, the Manchester Factory Light and Power Company, Glennie was trapped in the lake. So prior to this river was a river, and the power company wanted more power, so they dammed the lake. They made the lake, and it's called Glennie Lake. And the creature got trapped in it. He is 10 to 12 feet long creature, with as thick as with 4 flippers, so very thick body with 4 flippers and a long neck. The snout looks like a dog, and a row of sharp teeth with eyes, and colored and peeled onions. The eyes look like colored or peeled onions. When swimming, it appears to flap its flipper up and down like wings, and can also twist them like a corkscrew in motion. Some believe this is the common Abenaki folklore, like Champ, Membry, and Winnie, and we'll get to them later. But it's after it was seen then in the early 1900s. It hasn't been seen since, which is interesting. And a lot of these things are seen once or twice and never seen again. But it's just real interesting how these creatures from New England go. The next one is in Cheshire County, New Hampshire, located in Dublin Lake in Dublin, New Hampshire. It's 1,480 feet above sea level. It's part of the Connecticut Long Island watershed. Tributaries of the Manawa Brook, 236 acres, 64 to 100 feet in depth, locked off by 101. Miscule is a tributary of the Ashuelonnet River. So in the 1980s, a free diver went missing in Dublin Lake. A few days later, he was found naked and incoherent, babbling about a lake/sea monster. He was on land when hikers found him. No description given, but the lake has an underwater caves that have never been fully explored. So no verification on this one. That's one of those oddities that pop up. But we living here in New England, we all know about this next lake, Lake Winnipesaukee. Creature's name is Winnie. That's original. We're going to name it after the lake. They did that a lot back then. Champlain, Winnie, Dublin. There's a cue here that keeps up. Back in the 1800s and early 1900s, lake monsters had been seen around the lake for years. It's a snake-like creature, 40 to 50 feet. It's been seen cited by locals, tourists, known to have web feet. You can see it in the lake and track it like, there is actually a video now you can watch and track it like Champlain. The lake at its deepest point is 100 feet deep and 20 to 50 feet at its points. So Lake Winnipesaukee is another one of those lakes. You never know what it's hiding in those lakes. And all these lakes have something in common, and we're going to get to that a little bit later on in this great episode that we got going on here today. Lake Ossipee, Lake Winnipesaukee, located in the Ossipee Triangle The Ossipee Triangle, which we're not going to discuss tonight, but goes from Salem, New Hampshire to Jackson to Somersworth, New Hampshire, and then back down to Salem. So Lake Ossipee. Volcanic lake with a strange history of UFO, paranormal, and cryptids, including lake monsters, Bigfoot. The natives warn of a snake-like creature with webbed feet that could actually move from lake to lake, meaning Big Ossipee and Little Ossipee. They could move from lake to lake. Early reports, 50 feet plus, with the snake like its head and long, and a face that looks kind of like Champ. Was first spotted in the late 1800s and seen throughout the early 1900s. Hotels and cabins owners wrote about him in the early brochures. So, Lake Ossipee's creature was written so much it became part of everyday life out there. We have to wonder, when you see hotel and tourist magazines writing about lake creatures, do they or do they not really exist? Now, I firmly believe we do have lake creatures. I'm going to be upfront and honest with you. I've been doing this a lot of research, but sometimes when they say things like this has got to be this way and this creature moves this way, it may not move that way. It just may not. All right. So we just finished up with the, we're moving along here. Here's another one of those way up north things. As we're moving around here a little bit. Here's a lake that, kind of brings back something that, of interest. Poker Moonshine Lake Monster in Washington, Maine. Now, Poker Moonshine Lake is way up in Maine. It's almost on the Canadian border. Just so, if you're keeping track of these at your house and you ever want to go check them out, I would strongly suggest you could. All right. Dates back to the Algonquin natives. So it dates back way before it was originally sighted. So 1600s, 1500s, the Algonquins had ran the land all over New England out that way. But it was first sighted in 1882, seen by a sawmill owner. So the Algonquin natives had seen this lake monster for centuries. Legend has it the creature was born out of disagreement between the Algonquin shaman and the chief of the Micmac. The Micmac chief turned into this enormous serpent. Since then, the serpent-like creature, nearly 60 feet long, had been seen swimming around the lake. The serpent is a special serpent. This lake monster has been represented to be able to leave the lake and dry its body off over land in nearby lakes. In 1882, a sawmill owner claimed to see this monster track. This was 4 feet wide, 3 feet deep. Yeah, that's a big foot. That's the only time that monster had been seen. But imagine that I mean, if anybody listening up in Maine has known more about this creature, I haven't been able to find anything else about it. But I find that amazing that this thing could move from lake to lake. Rumor also had it, I had read stories where the Ossipee Lake monster did the same thing, moving from Little Ossipee to Big Ossipee Lake. So, if anybody's heard things, please let me know. This I actually found I'll be honest with you, researching this one, I found this in a tourist newspaper. So I read a lot of those, so it was quite interesting. So the next thing I want to get into is even further north, but we're getting closer and closer, don't worry, to other creatures that run the lakes and the monsters. These are all inland lakes for the most part. The next one we're going to talk about is the American Loch Ness Lake Champlain, or Champ for that matter, named after the lake. Instead of Champlain, we're going to call it Champ. That's the sea creature. Location, Burlington, Vermont, and Fort Henry, New York, so in that area there. The earliest sighting was in 1819. Champlain saw a creature in 1609 as he was exploring the area, size 15 to 50 feet. So that's interesting. That was the first sighting. Now let's look at the lake. Can this lake sustain a lake monster? And the answer is yes. 435 square miles, 400 feet deep, 7 million gallons of water, 5 to 7 miles of shoreline, 70 plus islands, and it also covers 2 states and 1 country, being Canada. One witness, a sea captain named, this is in the early 19th century, Crum, caught sight of the sea monster in the Beluga Bay, New York, near Plattsburgh Republican. Quote, Cram staging by looking at it, swore it was about 187 feet long. Flawed head, 3 teeth, 2 under the jaw, and 1 above the jaw, the upper jaw. Black in color with a stare on its with a star on its forehead, and built of red around his neck, large eyes, colored and peeled like onions, looked like onions. Railroad workers had noticed them on the shores of Dresden, New York, and saw this massive fish toiled serpent swimming towards the University of Burlington students. Witnesses said the creature slightly thrashed the water for a good 15 feet of its head and neck. Were invisible most of the account and saying P.T. Barnum offered $50,000 for the hide of Champ. I mean, I'm not a fan of someone going out and killing these things for pleasure, so I disagree with P.T. Barnum on this one. Over the years, some people say its style bumped sea serpent to an extinct reptile like a plesiosaurus from the dinosaur age, with its long neck, bulbar body, flippers like a plesiosaurus. This may sound off, but underneath Champlain, underwater caves that reach the Atlantic Ocean, where you have whales and other big animals, have been found. So they found whales, actually. They found a beluga whale in 1849 in Lake Champlain. It took the caves from the ocean and got stuck there. In 1977, Sandra Mancy was vacationing in Vermont and saw a long black neck in the water and took a picture with her Kodak Instamatic. And cheap as we know it could be. If you have done this with, so that was the first time seen in this, with this lake monster. And then in 1909, there was a group of people who saw the sighting today and will possibly be in the future. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any other sightings of Champlain. The next one I want to talk about is in Penobscot Bay, Maine. Again, this is a big-time lake monster, so that's what we're talking about. Cassie, location, Penobscot Bay, Maine, 1779. Future U.S. Navy hero Edmund Preble was on board his ship, the Proctor, and saw a sea serpent on the sun face of the water. Proved that it had to be at least 10 feet out of the water before diving back into the water. 1788, similar creature was spotted next to Broad Boy when sailors obscured by the sailors thought this creature was at least 45 feet long and raised its head out of the water. It too had a long straight neck. And it was seen many times from 1912 to 1940s. In 1958, it was seen fishing and stocking fish and then disappeared. Last was seen in 2000. The last reported event was 2006 by a woman who saw something like Loch Ness appear in the water in Penobscot Bay. So that was the last time it was seen, in 2002. That's pretty cool, because some of these things, we're seeing them in our lifetime. A lot of these old stories go back to pre-1980s. August 2nd, 1868, East Point, Maine. A group of people saw what they thought might be a fish floundering in the salt marsh. on the west side of East Point, Maine. It looked like a shark and pot fish. The spectators were scared and rushed over and shot 70 musket balls into the creature till it died. On October 1969, Harper's Weekly wrote an article about a creature that was 30 feet long and weighed 11 tons with an enormous decal, an enormous dorsal fin and a shark-like so this had large legs ending with webbed feet and a sharp, pointy teeth. The carcass was taken to the Bangor area, and no one's ever heard from this again. So that was in Eastport in August 2nd, 1868. All right. The next one I want to look at happened in the very famous Kittery Point, Maine, where the Kittery Trading Center is. In 1886, a local boat owner had been advised a vertical sea serpent spotted in the New Wood Island area spotted by two witnesses, Augusta Fernald and Hiram Toby of Kittery. Once it was a long string of flocking seaweed at the mouth of the Piscataqua River. As they pulled closer to the USO, the unidentified swimming object, it had realized it was not living in character and not seaweed ahead, 4 feet of the head and 75 feet long, rapidly moving eastward. In 1901, it was seen again. Herald reported the similar creature off of York Beach, and this New York Beach, these character lights even see openly not knowing, unseen, offering no down in the cool virtual by and of course this was seen again in Portsmouth, and it was written again by local hotels of a ocean serpent at Kittery, Maine. July 30th, 1901, Portsmouth paper reposted the discovery of a fine specimen of a sea serpent found half buried in the sands at Salisbury Beach. They call this creature character. No, they called this the creature and presented it perfectly personal. Was locked new with Hotel Gatlinburg. Located in Hotel Cushing. The serpent had apparently died where the splitter. The serpent had apparently died where a spirit of a wheel piece that pierced through the eye. So this serpent was so scary that they thought it died, that the eyes pierced right through the human looking at him. I could just imagine that, walking around the corner and running into a sea serpent. Could not have been pretty at all. All right, the next one we're going to look at is the creature that was on display at the local drugstore for years. 1858, the pilgrimage to Appledore Island. Dr. Samuel Barczyk, noted for Ossipee lobster, says twice that he has seen the sea serpent. So that's real interesting. Imagine seeing that thing pop up out of somewhere. The brother of the Isle of Shows poet, Cecilia Thaxter, claimed the first this fast-moving sea serpent once once terrified a group of hotel guests outside the sailing, but the snake and the creatures viewed as it approached by the boat. The moonlight was so low fright for the total deconstruction of of the paper and falling for weeks. So this thing had been around a lot in the Appledore Island. If you ever had a chance to get out there, I would. From what I hear, it's a beautiful historical site. All right. Classic sea serpent in full view would have been a mutaken or swordfish and the Fifth Amendment. So there's a lot of people that have seen this mutated fish, obviously. Let's see. Flexing its head. So this creature could weigh about 100 pounds. Flexing his head is about 15 feet long, could weigh up to 500 pounds. This, in the 1960s, the seventh was added to the 1800 paid fish trap. 1,800 pound fish, 1,800 pound fish happened to wash up on Revere Beach. The National Telegraph described it as a serpent. The doctor could be a field dragon or field operator. Open fish, and the world's largest bounty on fish at this time, so that fish is the world's largest preserved fish. Also, the U.S. So when you're out there and you're out around the lake here in New England, keep an eye open because you don't know what you're going to find. If any of you ever seen a sea monster and you want to private message me at paranormalzone.org, you're more than welcome to, and we'll get back to you, or you can text me at 978-376-2888. 2807 if you want to text me if you ever see one of these lake monsters. We're trying to keep up with them too, to see where they're popping up in the Ossipee Triangle and beyond. Now we're going to get to one of the more well-known ones, the Gloucester Sea Serpent. First seen in 1638 by John Jocelyn, an English traveler who wrote in his journals of an account of a sea serpent that was passerby and off the coast of Gloucester. They told him that the serpent was a snake-like leg coiled up like a cable upon a rock at Cape Ann. A boat passing by with 2 English and 2 Native Americans. The English wanted to shoot to kill, but were dissuaded by the natives, as they said killing this creature would only put their own lives in danger. In 1817, the Gloucester Sea Serpent, sketched, but science does not believe in that sketch. In 1819, a few years later on, the lake was seen in Lynn. In the summer of 1817, hundreds of people redoing crews of 4-wheel whaling vessels. So in the summer of 18, hundreds of people, including crews of 4 whaling vessels, sighted this serpent in Gloucester Harbor. So this guy traveled to Gloucester to see what the hype was, and it was to collect as much evidence as he could. One witness suspects the this guy traveled to Gloucester to collect evidence. Witness saw one serpent head looking like a turtle's head, but longer than a dog. Another another said the head of the rattlesnake, but longer. Let's see. And this witness said the serpent looked like a turtle head, but longer than a dog. So they're talking about its tail here. Another thought it was the head of a rattlesnake that they saw looking at this thing. The Linehan Society found a small sea serpent with bumpy skin, which identified as a baby sea serpent. They dubbed this species the Scoliops atlantis, but it may have carcass of a blank snake boat with no one to dedicate it. Then have been many sightings throughout the years. In 2017, Gloucester celebrated its 200th anniversary of the lake monster. You know what is interesting? I want to diverge for a minute. We're talking about lake monsters and where are they and how they're being seen. Well, you have to sometimes wonder if these big lakes don't have underground tunnels that go out to the great big ocean like Champlain. But even some of these smaller lakes, like the lake way up in Maine, that's not that far from the Atlantic coast up there. So, poke of moonshine. So you have to wonder, are there underground tunnels that were carved out whenever we want to call it, are there underground caves that, people could travel that may be blocked off or were purposely blocked off? So we have to wait and see what happens, but that would be one way of getting a Champlain-like creature that you could get at Lake Champlain. That's what makes this field even more interesting, because you don't know what you're going to see. I mean, and where they're coming in from. How do you have a lake up at Ossipee Lake? There are underground caves. Where do those caves go to? No one's fully ever explored them because we don't have the resources locally to do that. You have to bring in somebody with one of those model underground sonar devices or something, and then bring them into those caves and hope the sunlight goes deep enough to see what's in there. Because if we don't do that, the mystery of these lake monsters are going to continue to be nothing but a mystery. These sea and lake monsters. The next one I want to talk about is in Nahant. July 1833, passing between Egg Rock and Pomonomy winding into the harbor at Nahant, into Lynn Harbor, sorry, not Nahant, Lynn Harbor. And again, a Sunday morning, heading for the South Shore. It was seen by 40 or so, 50 ladies and gentlemen who could not be deceived. That was July 1833. And July 19th, 1877, another sighting in the Boston Globe reported this. People described what they saw: shining sea serpent, and that had been such a terrier along the New England seacoast. He was seen on Monday and then again this morning, and his circumference of the preserve was given in such detail as it disturbed the beholders, that there is a general credence given to the serpent that an unusual and pronagus serpentated monster displayed in Bias in the waters of Massachusetts Bay. August 1819. A letter appeared in the United Services Journal that a great sea serpent had been sighted off the coast of Nahant. It looked like a huge snake-like creature, 50 to 60 feet long. Many passed away. So again, at moderate speed, and continues with count 13 other small, 15 blackish curves, and other people had that day saw it from their fishing boat. So that was a big day in August to see this thing. Sightings of these creatures today in Nova Scotia. The last sightings was in November 15, 1970, where sea monsters had washed ashore at Scituate, south of Boston, over the next 3 days. 10,000 people showed up in discussion and cleared 17 was 50 feet. But souvenir seekers hacked off many pieces before New England Aquarium could get there and investigate. So this creature had washed up ashore and most likely died. And then by the time the New England Aquarium got there, it was gone, and people were starting to take pieces of themselves. But if you don't store these pieces right, it's like meat. They're gonna go bad, sour, turn on you, and stink up the freezer, so eventually you're gonna get rid of these things. In 1910, George Dexter took a photograph of a creature in Ipswich Bay. The picture was debunked as a hoax. So yes, there were people trying to figure out what they're gonna do and make their own sea serpents. One of the last ones I want to talk about happened in Scituate, 1910. In November 1970, not 1910. A sea monster or a sea serpent had washed up on Minot. It is not in Minot in Scituate, Massachusetts. Thousands of people showed up to see the dead carcass. It was 30 feet in length and it weighed 4 tons. Perhaps the track, so this thing was track, and it was hard to track, but it was really big. And they named this thing Cecile the Seaside Serpent. So again, another big unknown creature washes up on our beaches here in New England, and we don't know what it is. It's real scary to think what is out there, but what is out there isn't really scary. It's out there for us to enjoy. It's out there for us to research. So let's all go out there and continue to find these lake monsters and real proof that they do exist. And if you're going out there and you want some extra hands while you guys go out look for these things, reach out to the Paranormal Zone and we'll give you a hand. Anytime someone needs us, private home investigation, a public event, we'll be there for them all. So why don't you come on down, give us a call. If you need somebody to do a speech on sea serpents in New England or anything like that, give us a call. We'll come on out and we'll do a talk for you guys. So I want to thank everybody this week for tuning in, and I'll see you in the paranormal. I'm heading to my crypt. Good night, everybody. I'm heading to the crypt over the great big lake. Good night.